Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing a distinctive and colorful Speedy. It's the Omega Speedmaster Broad Arrow Coaxial Chronograph, 42mm in stainless steel. You can see this vintage-inspired contemporary chronograph and buy it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Omega Speedmaster Broad Arrow Coaxial Chronograph. Now, it's more than just a coaxial chronograph. It is a coaxial chronometer chronograph, a watch that has the classic 42mm moon watch profile, but offers a good deal more color character and, of course, sapphire crystal, 100-meter water resistance, extended power reserve, and automatic winding. This watch is the full package. Handsome and easy to wear, 42mm on a strap is a different story than 42mm on a bracelet with solid end links. So 42 is the diameter, not including crown or chronograph pushers. The watch is fairly thick, but not as thick as you'd imagine, and certainly not as thick as a moon watch. 13.5mm thick. It's the cantilever of the tachymeter scale bezel that prevents it from slipping underneath the tightest of dress cuffs, but you will have absolutely no difficulty with jackets of any kind. From lug to lug, the watch is fairly tidy. 48mm across the wrist is a size that wears easily on a smaller male wrist. I often define a smaller male wrist as 14 centimeters to 16.5 in circumference, and 50mm or fewer is my measurement, my critical measurement across the wrist. At 48, this one seals the deal for me. I'm sold on its ergonomics. You'll also note the lug spacing is a versatile 20mm, so if you wish to accessorize, you're going to have many options. The strap is substantial but unconstrained. It's not pinned against the case flank. There's no conforming end profile to the strap, so you get a vintage look of straight bars and unconstrained strap movement, so you can pull it straight down around the tight curve of a smaller wrist. This is important because the strap is generously bolstered, and if it had any tendency to stiffness, it would put up quite a fight. Fortunately, you wind up with a very burly, bolstered, and voluminous form to match the swell of the lugs. It wouldn't look right on this watch to mount an ultra-thin strap. This one is mission accomplished. Beautiful brown, a light brown with a sheer cut side, a thin sheer cut side, a contrasting stitch aviator style, and then on the underside a supple calfskin in a more beige tone, and on the top side a handsome polished Omega deployant clasp. Now, this is the clasp we've seen on a million Omega models, but sometimes it's finished a little bit differently, and that's certainly the case here, with the full high polish aesthetic being unusual and eye-catching. You'll also note the twin trigger release system ensures that the watch can't accidentally pop open. I appreciate that degree of security. I also appreciate the fact that the clasp is designed to accept the strap and tuck any excess length through the clasp body underneath the strap rather than requiring awkward minder or keeper loops. You can see how it's a very clean clasp when fully buckled down, maintaining the smooth lines of the strap without encumbrance. It's also a surprisingly soft strap, although substantial, and oftentimes bolstered straps are rather difficult to deal with. This one has a supple feel, and it thins out considerably as it approaches the underside of the wrist, so it's not going to fight you there either. The case should be familiar. Let's get as close as we can. The case should be familiar. If you know the Speedmaster or even the Seamaster, then you're going to find the sheer sides with their horizontal satin finish and the polished bevels to be exactly what we've come to know and love from Omega. The outer circumference of the tachymeter is of high polish. You'll note its top is circular grained with a satin finish with lacquer fill, and the dial is where this one really starts to come alive and come into its own as a distinct model. A combination of the Broad Arrow hour hand from 1957. This is anything but a vintage tribute watch or a vintage reissue. It's best looked at the way the Planet Ocean is seen compared to, for example, the Seamaster Diver 300-meter or the Aquaterra. This is a slight vintage inflection without being a vintage re-edition watch. So you have that Broad Arrow, you have the 1957 script, but at the same time you have a dial that's very much of the present. Beautiful blue indices with hands to match, an Omega marquee in a comparable rich metallic blue. The dial itself is gray opaline or essentially matte finish. All of the sub-registers are countersunk, so a different focal plane. You'll note that the crosshair architecture of constant seconds at 9 o'clock allows you to visually distinguish it at a moment's glance from chronograph minutes and chronograph hours. Now the dial is also anchored at 6 o'clock with a date window, so you have access to that convenient information without spoiling the symmetry of the dial in any sense. Beautiful extended lancet style chronograph seconds hand and a stepped track outboard for the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. Push down crown, but nevertheless, 100 meter water resistant in spite of the lack of a screw down. The watch does feature both hacking or stop seconds, so you can halt the watch and synchronize to a reference time, as well as a quick set function for the date. And because it is a vertical clutch column wheel caliber, you can see how the seconds hand has no jump or stagger to it as I start it and stop it. Another advantage of the vertical clutch being that you can start the chronograph, and if you prefer to have constant seconds at center with minutes and hours, that is without resorting to the subdial, you can just leave the chronograph running if you prefer the look of a running chronograph seconds hand for telling time. With the vertical clutch, there is no hazard wear or tear. I should also mention that the watch being a display caseback as well as a column wheel system means you can easily watch the column wheel function selector interact with the horns and levers of the chronograph system. Beautifully executed, caliber 3313. These are based on a Frederic Piguet 1285, a thicker, more robust version of the 1185, well known, for example, as a chronograph mainstay of Blancpain, also within the Swatch groups. This is a high horology caliber. Few upgrades. It's gone from 40 hours power reserve to 52, and it's gone from a mobile stud index to the more robust free-sprung architecture you see here. Adjusted in 5 positions, COSC Swiss chronometer, so very precise, and once more, it does have 100 meter water resistance, so it's a step above the Moonwatch in that respect. The finish of the watch is attractive. You can see the bridge forms familiar to anyone who knows Frederic Piguet chronograph architectures, and you'll also note that the degree of finish, perhaps a cut above other Omega watches from this mid-2000s period. It is a handsome look and nicely executed. Automatic winding, set it and forget it reliability, COSC chronometer status, and of course adapted to work with the Omega co-axial escapement for improved short-term timing stability and ultimately reduced long-term maintenance requirements. Of course, developed by George Daniels in the 1990s for Omega. He'd peddled it to many brands before then, only Omega had the courage to industrialize it. This remains avant-garde escapement technology and a tangible link between high independent horology and a mainstream brand. You get a lot with this watch. You can see it and you can purchase it on our website, and stay tuned for an epic loom shot. And now we are back with the Omega Speedmaster Broad Arrow. All of those subtle luminescent hour indices that you couldn't see by the light of day suddenly assert themselves. You can see this one in full daylight with all accessories and papers with high-res imagery on our website.